Hey guys, tonight we're heading somewhere deep like boog in your socks sweat behind Jonas. Why does that tree smell like soup kind of deep? Picture this, a jungle so thick you can't tell vine from serpent, and somewhere in that leafy mess, entire city, swallowed by time, built from stone, moss, and maybe a little bit of madness. We're talking crumbling towers poking out like forgotten molars, garden mazes that seem to rearrange themselves, and gates so old we've forgotten who they were meant to keep out, and you're about to walk through one of those gates, like a brave and slightly damp explorer who didn't pack enough socks. You're going to get lost. I'm just being honest. Between the echoing monkey cackles and roots that grab your ankles, like needy toddlers, survival isn't guaranteed. But hey, adventure, mystery, and some surprisingly comfy moss await. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop a comment with your city and local time. I want to know who's getting sleepy where. Now. Dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You push aside a tangle of vines, wet leaves brushing your cheeks, the humid air thick like warm broth. Ahead of you rises a crumbling stone gate, half swallowed by the jungle. Its pillars are etched with worn symbols, some circular, some jagged, some that look eerily like closed eyes. One seems half open, or maybe that's just your imagination. You're not sure who built this, or why it's still standing. But it calls to you, not with sound, no, it's more like a pressure in your ears, a tug in your ribs, like déjà vu wrapped in moss and mystery. The stone is warm to the touch, a little too warm. As your fingers brush the ancient surface, a low hum resonates deep and grumbly like something big just shifted underground, stone moving against stone, or maybe something else waking up. You remember a drawing, faded ink on parchment, found in the back of a forgotten archive. It showed spiral paths, dense with scribbles and one strange symbol at the top, a pair of wide eyes and a smile. Scholars argued about that symbol for decades. Some said it marked the main temple. Others said it was just a joke from a bored mapmaker. Historians are still debating whether this place ever truly existed. Some think it was just a metaphor, a poetic idea of paradise hidden in the wild. Others insist it was real, buried under centuries of vines and denial. But now, you're standing in it. You step through the gate. The air changes. It's heavier, tinged with the scent of damp clay, crushed ferns, and something faintly metallic like rusted memory. The ground here isn't dirt anymore. It's paved with broken stones, some sunken, others jutting out like teeth. You spot carvings beneath the mosswell's handprints, leaves, and what looks suspiciously like a chicken foot. Okay, whoever made that one had a sense of humor. Off to your left, a toppled pedestal leans against a tree. Claw marks long and curved are scratched into its surface, not weathering, not animal tracks. These grooves are deliberate, to clean, like someone dragged a blade through butter-soft stone. You've read stories. One in particular, tucked in the margin of a 17th century journal, mentions a hand that lays stone. No one knew what that meant. Maybe it was metaphor, maybe it wasn single quotes t. Up ahead, a wall rises, not high but thick, solid, almost pulsing with tension. You brush away more vines and uncover a relief sculpture, a figure with roots for hair and stars for eyes. Her mouth is open, but no sound comes out. She's mid-sentence, eternally interrupted. You hear it again, that low hum. It's coming from behind the wall this time, and then something clicks. Somewhere deeper in the ruins, stone settles into place. Or maybe it's unlocking. You don't turn back. Not now. A breeze pushes through, sudden and oddly cold. It carries the scent of something floral but sharp, like jasmine soaked in vinegar. Your nose wrinkles. The vines rustle behind you. You swear they were still a second ago. You keep walking. The path curves, and the trees open just slightly to reveal a large plaza. Well, it used to be. Now it's half swallowed by tree roots. The flagstones cracked and crooked. In the center stands a circular pattern. 7 concentric rings etched with markings you've never seen before. The symbols glow faintly, not with light, exactly, but with memory. Like your brain is recognizing something your conscious mind hasn't caught up to yet. You step closer. One of the stones bears a deep imprint of foot-shaped depression, larger than yours, pointing straight ahead into a passage lined with jagged shrubs and glimmering spores. Oh yeah. This definitely looks safe, but your legs move anyway, as if the city itself is inviting you in, or absorbing you. Your shoulder brushes a hanging curtain of moss. It's wet, cold, and strangely soft, softer than any plant should be. As you glance at your hand, you notice faint green residue clinging to your skin. It smells like mint and pencil shavings. You rub it off, and the moss pulses slightly, just once, like a sigh. You decide not to touch anything else for a while. Birdsong erupts suddenly, sharp, rhythmic, almost patterned, not quite music, not quite natural, a warning, a greeting, or maybe just jungle jazz. You look up. A monkey stares back at you from the top of a vine-strangled arch. It blinks slowly, then tosses something small and hard that clinks against the stone beside you, a seed, maybe, or a pebble, or a tooth. You don't stay to find out. Instead, you step into the shadow of the arch, the city swallowing the sound of your footsteps. As it folds around you, the air hums again, lower this time, like the city is taking a breath, and you're not an explorer anymore. You're part of the story now. The path narrows. Vines stretch like sleepy arms across the stone walkway, and you find yourself ducking under loops of creepers, brushing aside giant ferns that glisten with dew or something thicker. The air feels pressed in close, as if the jungle itself is leaning over your shoulder, watching what you'll do next. You emerge into a clearing shaped like an open hand, 5 curving paths fanning out like fingers from a central circle of stone. But only one has footprints, bare feet, wide-set toes, deep impressions, like someone walked through wet clay and the earth decided to remember it forever. You follow dotted winds upward along a slope covered in low, blooming shrubs. The flowers are odd pale yellow with a red spot in the center that seems to twitch when you get close. You try not to get too close. One buzzes slightly when you pass. Just nerves, right? Up ahead, a half-fallen archway looms, barely held up by the strangled embrace of 2 banyan trees. Beneath it, a carved relief, a figure, tall and lean, hands raised as if speaking. All around them, vines etched into the stone, curling toward their ears. The king who spoke to plants. That's what the old scroll had called him right before the ink bled into nonsense. A monarch who ruled not by decree, but by listening to the leaves, to the soil, to the pulse of growth itself. Sounded poetic, or like someone with a truly epic mushroom habit. But the weird thing is, the plants seem to be listening back. You step through the arch and suddenly the temperature drops. Cool, like the air's been waiting all day for you to arrive. The ground here is littered with petals, blue ones this time, soft underfoot and suspiciously arranged in a spiral. You follow them. They lead you to a sunken amphitheater. Stone seats, moss-covered and cracked, surround a platform grown over with wild grass. Statues line the outer rim, each one unique, a woman with bird wings, a man with beetle antennae, a child with vines for limbs. They all face inward. Watching the platform holds a single plinth, and on that plinth, a bowl carved from a single massive seed pod, still holding water, still glistening. You crouch, peer inside. The water's murky, but there's something moving beneath the surface, a root maybe, or a finger. You straighten quickly. Behind you the amphitheater murmurs. It's the wind, you tell yourself. Always the wind, but it carries rhythm this time. Words no more like syllables, too broken to be language. Like someone trying to form speech through dirt, or through leaves. A rustle beside you. One of the statues just shifted, probably, or maybe you imagined it. Hard to say when you haven't blinked in a while. You remember another strange fact from the scrolls, that this king, whoever he was, never appeared in 2 stories the same way. Sometimes he was barefoot, other times in bark armor. Once he was described as having a crown made of live butterflies, which feels impractical, but majestic. Some believe he was a metaphor, a symbol of harmony with nature. Others argue he was Raylan, that his voice had a literal biological effect on plant life. Historians still argue whether he even ruled, or merely wandered, with the jungle blooming in his wake. But the plants here, they respond. A small vine at your feet starts curling slowly toward your boot. You step back, another tendril reaches up near your elbow. They're not aggressive, just curious. You think back to that carving, the king with his hands up, not commanding, not threatening, just open, receptive. So you try it. You raise your hands, palms out, and you say something, anything. A word that means nothing. A sound, a name you haven't said in years. The jungle listens. And then, somewhere beneath your feet, something shifts. The petals move, rearranged by a breeze that didn't come from above. The spiral now ends in a small hole in the earth, no larger than your foot. You crouch, peer inside. Not darkness, not entirely. A soft green glow pulses from below, not electric, bioluminescent, maybe. The kind of glow that can't be switched off. The kind that breathes. You lower yourself in. The tunnel is tight, but lined with stone grooves that serve as stairs. Each step has symbols worn into the edges, words, prayers. No translation available. No Rosetta vine. The tunnel opens into a chamber, circular. Every wall engraved with scenes. Men whispering to saplings. Women standing still as ivy climbs them like lovers. Children laughing as trees bow toward them. At the center of the room is a large, hollow trunk, fossilized and dry, yet warm to the touch. You place your hand against it. A sound echoes, not loud, just a whisper. It's your name, or something close, said in a voice made of wind through reeds. Then, suddenly nothing. The glow fades, the whisper stops, the chamber goes silent, and a vine gently guides your hand away from the trunk. That's enough for now, it says without words. You climb back out. The amphitheater unchanged, but somehow watching you more closely now. The statues haven't moved, but they feel less like decoration, more like witnesses. That as you pass under the arch again, you notice something new, a carving freshly uncovered where moss had fallen away. It shows the same king, but this time he's not speaking to plants. He's listening to you. Asterisk, the jungle shifts again. as if embarrassed to be caught rearranging itself. The path behind you is gone, swallowed by overgrowth, tangled vines, and a smug-looking bush you're pretty sure wasn't there a minute ago. So forward it is. Your boots sink softly into moss like overpriced memory foam, and the air thickens with that tropical bouquet of sweetness, rot, and mild existential dread. Ahead lies a new structure. At first glance it's just a wall-wide low blank, but then you see the statues. They're everywhere, lining the walls like solemn sentries. Some sit, some kneel, some stand hunched as if mid-conversation, frozen in time. Their faces are expressive wide eyes, pursed lips, brows lifted in eternal question. You recognize none of them, not kings, not warriors. These aren't the usual stone VIPs. They look like common people, a baker, a child, a woman with a basket, all carved with eerie realism. And every single one of them has hollow eyes, empty sockets that once held something. You step closer. The stone underfoot shifts tone, less of a footpath, more of a stage, and you suddenly feel very, very visible. There's a strange sound here, faint but constant, like a whisper with nowhere to go. The kind of sound your ears invent in silence, but this one's real. You can feel it brushing your skin. You're not alone. You crouch near one of the statues. Its eyes, like the others, are empty but deeper than they should be, almost like tunnels. You reach into your pack and pull out your flashlight. Not because it helps much, it mostly just annoys the shadows, but because it makes you feel brave. You shine the beam into the statue's eye-dotted tunnels. The socket leads to a narrow pipe carved straight through the stone and into the wall behind it. A surveillance system, ancient, ingenious, creepy as hell. Historians still argue whether these channels were used for air, sound, or something more sinister like watching ceremonies in secret. One theory: priests would hide inside the walls and whisper responses back during rituals, making the statues appear to speak. You whisper into the hollow socket. Nothing happens, yet you rise slowly and turn in a circle. Now that you're paying attention, you can see the hidden grooves. This whole chamber is built for sound. The circular layout, the open mouths of statues, the perfectly placed stones for resonance. It's an amplifier, a listening chamber, and somewhere someone or something used to listen back. You pace forward toward the center. A raised platform holds a single large sculpture, a woman seated cross-legged, arms folded over her chest, and her face cracked through one eye socket. Her gaze is locked on yours. She's different, not passive, not forgotten like the others. Her stone is smoother, darker, less weathered, as if someone's been maintaining her dot at her base, a shallow bowl, filled with dried petals, purple, brittle, and piled high like an offering. You kneel beside it. One of the petals crumbles at your breath. The scent is faint but distinct, salt and copper, not quite floral, more like blood mixed with perfume. You blink. Your ears pop. Then, faintly, a voice, not in your ears, not outside them either, somewhere behind your thoughts, like memory, speaking without permission. He watched, he waited, he still does. You jolt upright. The petals are gone. Or maybe they were never there. You spin, but the statues haven't moved. Of course not. That would be silly. You take a step back and the wind shifts. From nowhere, a single stone rolls across the platform. A small one no bigger than a dice. It stops at your foot. You pick it up. There's a symbol etched into its face, a circle with two horizontal lines like closed eyes. Not a warning, a signature. The Watcher. You've read passing mentions and fragments. A figure who wasn't ruler or priest, but something in between. The Watcher saw all ceremonies, judged no one, and remembered everything. Supposedly, the Watcher lived forever, not through immortality, but because memory passed on from one vessel to the next. Some say the Watcher was not even human. Others say he still waits inside one of these statues, biding his time until someone worthy speaks the right phrase. Cool. Totally fine. You drop the stone back into the bowl, or you try. It rolls out and lands near the cracked statue. You don't try again. You step down off the platform and make your way to the far end of the chamber. There's another arch, smaller, more like a hallway. But as you cross under it, something changes. The whispering stops. Dead silence. Even the bugs stop bugging. You turn just once to glance back. And though nothing moves, you feel very strongly that several statues have shifted their gaze. You hurry on, past the arch. The walls narrow. The passage becomes almost intimate, like crawling inside a throat made of sandstone. The air tastes old. The whispers return muffled now. You hear them through the stone. Echoes chasing echoes. Not words, just patterns. The kind your brain starts to recognize just before you lose sleep. You press on. You emerge into a small courtyard, square, neatly paved, and entirely empty except for one thing. A perfectly carved head. Just a head. No body. Its mouth is open. Its eyes are not hollow but shut. You crouch and look closer. Inside the mouth, tucked just beneath the teeth, a scrap of cloth. Ancient, dyed purple. You tug it free, careful not to disturb the fragile stone. Unfurl it. On the cloth, a phrase embroidered in curling script. Even statues blink. You stare at it behind you. A faint scraping sound. The scrape comes again. Not loud, not urgent, just ... deliberate. You freeze. Behind you is a silent city of stone and shadow. Ahead, more of the jungle, waiting patiently like a cat watching a bug that hasn't noticed it's already doomed. The cloth in your hand flutters slightly, whether from the breeze or your shaking fingers, you can't be sure. You fold it, tuck it into your pocket, just in case someone later accuses you of hallucinating the embroidery. You'll need proof. Beyond the stone head, a dry pool opens out. Once an ornamental pond, perhaps. Its edges are lined with decorative tiles glazed with a greenish sheen that once must have shimmered in the sun. Now it's cracked and dull, but there's something off about the center. The middle of the pool sags just slightly, like a belly button pressed into the earth. You step down into it, each footfall echoing with a gentle chink against forgotten art. Near the center, your toe catches on a lip of stone. You crouch and clear away the dirt, and there it is, a seam hairline thin, nearly invisible unless you knew to look, a lid, a trapdoor, hidden in plain sight. You press your palm against it. Nothing happens. You pressed harder, still nothing. Then, instinctively, you reach back into your pocket and pull out the folded purple cloth. You press it against the seam, a soft click. The stone vibrates beneath your feet and then lowers. Not rapidly, not with a dramatic grind and flash. No, this city is polite. It moves like a yawn, slow, steady, inevitable. You descend. It's cool down here, damp, but not musty. The air smells faintly of ink, old paper, oiled stone. You're standing in a library of sorts. The walls are lined with rectangular recesses, each holding what looks like slabs, thin, flat, marked with symbols and repeating patterns. Not quite language, but close. The kind of thing you stare at long enough that your brain starts assigning meaning even if it isn't there. One slab lies open on a pedestal in the center. You step closer. The slab is cracked, but intact. Its surface shimmers slightly in the dim light, as though brushed with a sheen of morning dew. You reach out, fingertip brushing the edge. Suddenly the room responds. Soft golden lines bloom across the slab, forming symbols, then fading as quickly as they came. Not light, exactly, not paint. Memory. Maybe you try again. The same shimmer. Then a pulse. This isn't just a library, it's a memory bank, carved directly into a special stone, porous enough to record sound vibrations and temperature shifts. According to a fringe theory once laughed out of every serious university, these living slabs were encoded with information not by hand, but by experience. Sit near one, speak to it, breathe, live on. The slab remembers. That said, a single piece could hold years of story, which raises the obvious question: who sat here? You turn to the walls. Each recess is labeled with a different glyph. Most are unreadable. One shows a hand with a spiral in the palm, another a tree with 5 roots and no branches, and one depicts a face split down. The middle one half smiles, the other is screaming. Naturally, you pull that one out. The slab is heavy. You stagger slightly as you carry it to the central pedestal. As soon as you set it down, warmth flows into your fingertips. Not heat. Memory. You see flashes, not clearly, not images but senses. Cold breath, heavy humidity, a voice, barely audible, and footsteps. Always footsteps. You blink, it fades. You hear a faint sound now, in the real chamber. Something shifting, somewhere deeper underground. You glance toward the far wall and there it is, a passage, narrow, carved like a tunnel through roots, with rounded organic walls that seem to pulse gently. Of course you enter. It curves, winds, slopes, downward again. You begin to feel the weight of the earth above you, the pressure, the silence. Then, unexpectedly, the walls stop pulsing. They harden. You've entered another chamber, but this one is different. No carvings, no slabs, just a circular room with a pool in the middle. Unlike the dry one above, this one still holds water, perfectly still, black as obsidian. You kneel beside it. There's something under the surface, deep, too deep to make out, but it glints faintly. You reach down. The water is warm, too warm, like bath water left out too long. You hesitate, then submerge your arm slowly, deeper, deeper. Your fingers brush something. Stone. Carved. You close your hand around it, lift a tablet, smaller than the others, smooth, polished, and on its face one phrase carved deeply: ask nothing, listen always. You stare at the words, and then changes. Not in the room. In you. Your thoughts slow, your pulse evens. Not calm, exactly, more like sync. You close your eyes. In the darkness behind your lids, sounds begin to echo. Laughter, singing cries of birth and death, murmurs in forgotten languages, the scratching of stylus on stone, the voices of a lost city. The library beneath the pond is not silent, it never was. You just had to be still enough to hear it. You don't remember climbing out of the library. The city breathes around you again. It exhales birdsong and humidity, a kind of pulsing quiet that's never quite still. Somewhere a tree creaks with the weight of something unseen, maybe a monkey, maybe a ghost with taste and dramatic timing. You blink, and suddenly you're in another clearing. Circular, overgrown. The stone is cracked beneath your feet, covered in moss and patches of lichen that form odd shapes like maps. You can't read, or faces that forgot how to frown. At the center stands an altar, low, wide, and cloaked in green fuzz. Not grand or ceremonial like you'd expect, more like A picnic table for a deity who prefers potlucks, and hovering above it fireflies. Not a few, not even a dozen. Hundreds. Tiny floating lanterns drift slowly in a spiral above the altar, pulsing in a soft synchronized rhythm. Yellow, gold, faint green. The glow isn't constant, it flickers like a heartbeat, like breathing, like chanting. You watch in silence as they circle higher and higher, then descend in perfect unity before flaring and scattering again. It's not random. You know that immediately. It's ritual. It's choreography. And the altar beneath, it's not just decoration. You approach. The stone is worn but still intact. Symbols etched into its face, deep grooves smoothed over by years of weather. You trace one with your finger, a crescent moon. Below it, two hands cupped upward. Beneath that, a firefly. You look up. The insects circle again, this time forming a ring above your head. A crown if you're feeling poetic. A threat if you're not. Historians still argue whether these insects were trained, manipulated with sense and sound, or just part of something stranger, something alive in the city's memory, performing a dance no one has led for centuries. You sit on the edge of the altar, legs dangling, probably disrespectful, but the moss feels like velvet and your legs are tired. You close your eyes, the air hums. You hear it now, not just buzzing, but notes. High, low, trembling harmonics. It's a song, a real one. And as it plays, your mind drifts not away from the jungle, but deeper into it, into memory. Not yours. You see a girl, brown skin, hair woven with white petals. She kneels by this altar, palms outstretched, mirroring the carving. Around her, the fireflies perform the same spiral you just watched. Her lips move, but no sound comes, and then she opens her eyes. They're glowing, not brightly, just faintly, the same way bioluminescent algae clings to your skin after a night swim. And she speaks one word. You don't know it, but it rings like a bell inside your ribs. You jolt back to yourself. The altar feels warmer. Now you look down and notice something strange. The moss around your legs has changed color, just slightly. Greener, fresher, or maybe that's your imagination doing push-ups again. You stand and glance behind you. The clearing is quiet, but not empty. The shadows are watching. You hear soft movement behind a low wall. A rustle, then nothing. You turn. Another figure, stone, leaning forward from behind a collapsed tree trunk, arm extended toward the altar. Its face is damaged, nose gone. Mouth broken, but one eye remains wide intact. It's watching the fireflies, and suddenly you understand. This was an audience chamber. Not for royalty, not for judgment, for awe. They gathered here to witness the light dance. And perhaps, if they were lucky, hear the message in it. You step behind the altar and find more carvings, these deeper, newer, as if someone returned long after the city fell and decided to write again. A story. You read it slowly. On the night without moon they gathered. She called them with no voice. The light obeyed. The song began, and all who listened remembered. That last line repeats 5 times, each time in a different language, even one you recognize, Latin, Mayan, Sanskrit, one you don't. The fireflies drift again. You notice they aren't flying at random. Each one moves like it's been assigned a path, like it knows where it's supposed to go. You crouch beside the altar and watch their movement carefully. It takes a minute, or 10, but eventually you start to see it. They're tracing shapes, letters, patterns, a phrase, and then you understand they're writing. You just need to wait for the full sentence, so you do. 5 minutes pass, 10, finally. They complete the spiral and spell it out. We're still listening. You step back slowly. The light dims. The fireflies scatter once more, returning to their lazy loops as if the message had never happened. But you know better. You look down at your arms, small. Green glows cling to your skin like stars. You look like a map now, and someone knows where you are. You walk on. The jungle hushes behind you like it's closing a door. The trail grows thinner, coiling like a vine that can't decide if it's path or trap. The air thickens again, syrupy and slow, the way it does when rain is thinking about, but showing up but hasn't quite committed. You swat away a mosquito the size of a marble and make a mental note that bug spray should come in flamethrower form. Eventually, the undergrowth parts, and there it is, a maze. Not the garden kind with hedges and giggling tourists. This one's made of stone, pale gray walls, slick with moss, rising taller than your head. Winding corridors vanish into shadow, each passage lined with broken columns and strange spiral markings etched into the corners like they were drawn by someone who got distracted halfway through a symbol and just kept going. Above you, the canopy breaks open slightly, a slice of sky, and hanging in it, like a secret, is the moon. A thin silver arc, barely visible in the gloom. You take one step forward and immediately feel it. Pressure. Not heavy, just focused, like something is watching your choice of direction. Like a test you didn't study for because the syllabus was hidden in moss. You step into the maze, the air shifts, and behind you, a low clack echoes. You spin around, but the path you came from, gone, walled off, replaced by more of the same gray stone, now humming softly with a sound like wind playing a bone flute. So, yeah, this isn't just a maze. This is a maze built for someone or something. You walk slowly, dragging your fingers along one wall not because you're trying to be cinematic, but because you're genuinely worried about disappearing. Your fingertips find shallow grooves, feigning symbols, like notches, or tallies. Someone's been here before and counted the walls. You turn left, then right again. The walls begin to shimmer faintly with streaks of blue lichen, glowing softly in the shadows. They pulse once when you exhale. You hold your breath. They go still. You keep moving. Eventually you find a central chamber, circular, open to the sky again. At its center, a raised stone platform. Just one step up, surrounded by curved stone benches. The layout feels ceremonial, but not grand, intimate, like a private worship space. And carved into the stone beneath your feet, a vast crescent moon, stretching from one side of the circle to the other. In the center of that moon, a spiral. You kneel to examine it. It's familiar. You've seen that spiral before in the library slabs, in the firefly altar, even on that cloth with the embroidered phrase. Always slightly different, always twisting inward, a symbol of connection, a map, a joke. Some scholars say this spiral represented the moon goddess's eye ever watching, ever shipit. Others think it's a signature, her personal mark left on the city's foundation. One odd theory, barely a footnote in a forgotten dissertation, claimed the spiral was actually a calendar of dreams, each coil representing a phase, each turn recording one dream's return to the waking world. You know what that sounds like. Exactly the sort of nonsense that turns out to be true around here. As you sit, the moonlight hits the platform just right, and then you hear it, a sound that shouldn't be there. Click, slide, whisper. The maze behind you reconfigures. You glance back. The path you came from is gone. Again, but now, there's only one exit, and it's glowing. Soft blue light pulses from the archway, inviting but not entirely comforting. You step toward it and the spiral beneath your feet flashes. Once you pause, the stone beneath your boots feels different. Now, warm, like it just remembered something. You glance back one last time at the moon-shaped floor, and for a moment, just a flicker, you see someone standing in the center of the spiral. A woman, tall, veiled in silver, barefoot. Her eyes are moons, her skin, bark and shadow. She looks directly at you and smiles, then blinks and vanishes. You don't speak. What would you even say? You turn and walk toward the glowing archway. The passage beyond is narrower, more organic. The stone here is smoother, shaped more like roots than bricks. You brush your hand along the wall and feel faint pulses, like a heartbeat deep inside the earth. You reach another chamber, smaller, cozier in a weirdly unnerving way. At its center, a pedestal resting on it, a small sculpture. You step closer. It's the moon, crescent-shaped, made from polished black stone, inset with lines of silver that shimmer like rivers under moonlight. But it's broken, split down the center. You pick up each half carefully. Inside, tiny etchings on one half, a series of names, on the other a phrase. She walks the maze to remember. You walk it to forget. You stare at the halves behind you. The walls hum again. The maze is shifting once more, but this time you're already where you're supposed to be. You place the halves back together and set them gently down. As you do, something in the pedestal clicks from the back of the chamber. A thin door opens. It doesn't creak or groan, it just slides, like it's been waiting for years for the right touch. Beyond it, stairs. Descending. Again, because this city isn't satisfied with one layer of memory, it wants all of them. You take a deep breath, and down you go. The steps spiral downward. Not steeply, just enough to remind you how deep this place runs. With each turn, the air gets cooler, thinner, like the earth is slowly wringing the breath out of you. The walls tighten, carved from seamless stone that feels too smooth, too precise to have been shaped by anything as clumsy as tools. There's no sound except your own footsteps, and even that's fading. You pause once, just once, to rest your hand on the wall. It's warm again, always warm. These stones, like they hold more than memory. Like they haven't gone to sleep since the day they were born. The stairs end. You step into darkness. Not pitch black, no. The city never does anything so dramatic. This is soft darkness. The kind of dark that lingers behind closed eyes. You blink, and faint light appears, thin lines tracing across the floor like lazy lightning. You follow them. They lead you to a bridge. Stone, narrow, suspended over, well, nothing. You lean slightly over the edge, expecting a drop. There isn't one. Just mist. Endless mist that pulses faintly in time with your heartbeat. Below it, shapes drift, slow moving, shapeless, large. You decide not to stare too long. The bridge hums beneath your feet, a soft vibration. Musical, not random notes, maybe. You take another step. The tone changes. Another note, another step. Higher, this time, then lower. You pause. This bridge is singing and you are playing it. Each footfall triggers a note, gentle, melodic, sometimes discordant if you step too quickly. You move slowly now, more aware of your weight, your rhythm. With patience, tones settle into a soft tune, echoing across the mist like the world's loneliest lullaby. It's beautiful and more than a little creepy. Somewhere in the mist, something answers, not with a note but with silence, a deliberate, weighty silence, like someone turning off a radio mid-song. You stop. That silence has mass direction. It's coming from ahead from the far side of the bridge where an arch looms, covered in vines that sway without wind. You hesitate. The bridge beneath you vibrates again just once, a note, a low one, a warning, or encouragement. You step forward. The silence ahead parts, replaced by the soft rustle of leaves and a sound that doesn't belong. Breath, steady, rhythmic. Someone or something is breathing. Beyond that archway, you reach the end of the bridge and slip through. The vines, the air changes. You're in another chamber. This one is circular again, but the ceiling has long since collapsed, revealing a canopy of trees above. Moonlight spills in through the gaps, catching on 1,000 tiny wind chimes made of shell, bone, and bronze that hang from the broken beams. And at the center of the chamber, a figure stone sitting cross-legged on a low platform, eyes closed, palms upward breathing. You swear you see the chest rise, just slightly, as if the statue were exhaling through stone lungs. You blink. It doesn't move again. Still, you feel watched. You approach cautiously. Each step stirs the wind chimes overhead, and the resulting music is chaotic. No rhythm, no harmony, just the sound of wind caught in memory. You kneel before the statue. There's an inscription at the base. Only in quiet do the buried speak. Listen long enough, and they'll remember who they were. You sit, you wait, you listen. The wind dies. The chimes slow. The breathing grows fainter, whether yours or the statue's. You can't tell. And then you hear a voice inside your chest. Not your mind, not your ears. Your chest. Low, familiar, like the part of you that remembers lullabies from childhood. You thought you'd forgotten. It speaks. She sang to the night. The bridge remembered the path, heard her song, and so it opened. You don't know what it means, but you do know this. The bridge didn't just hum for you, it recognized you. That voice again. Others came. They demanded. They broke. The song fell silent. Until now, a breeze passes. The statue doesn't move, but from the floor beneath the platform, something emerges. A shaft of light, thin, narrow, cool blue dot. It points to the far wall. You follow it with your eyes. There, partially hidden by hanging moss, is a panel, not carved, slid into the wall like a drawer half pulled. You stand, move toward it, brush aside the moss. The panel is etched with a familiar spiral, your old friend. You press your hand to it, a faint pulse, then a sound, soft, metallic, ancient. The panel slides open. Inside, a narrow passage leading downward again. The city never ends, but before you step through, you look back at the statue, still seated, still breathing. You give it a nod because, well, it feels right. You step into the new corridor. The wind chimes behind you stir once more, and this time they form a chord. Major. Hopeful. Like the maze remembers your name. The corridor slopes downward again, not aggressively, more like a gentle nudge, a slide your feet have already agreed to. The walls here are smoother than before, less vine, more polish, the kind of polish that only comes from thousands of hands, brushing past over centuries. You touch it, cool. Faintly slick like stone that sweats. You wipe your fingers on your shirt, but the feeling stays. The corridor narrows, tightens, then suddenly opens into another chamber, and this one is tilted. The whole room leans to one side, like it was half swallowed by the earth and then stubbornly held its shape. Vines drape diagonally across collapsed columns, and shattered tiles run like a waterfall down one wall. A broken statue lies face first in the corner, its outstretched hand still clutching something round. You step in carefully, testing the floor. It holds barely. This place feels wounded, as if the city tried to rise again, and failed. You tread across the uneven floor, passing murals barely visible beneath soot and moss. One catches your Argus city floating on water, reflected in a mirrored lake, but the reflection isn't the same. In it the buildings tilt, the towers sag, and the people gone, just shadows. You move closer, there's a crack through the mirror. Vertical, it splits the city in two. And then you see it, near the base, in tiny script beneath the lake. The city sank, then it rose, and that's it. The rest is scraped away. You step back. This is what they meant, isn't it? This wasn't the first fall. The city collapsed once, then returned, and then collapsed again. You pass through another arch, this one fractured, but still standing, and enter a second chamber. Here everything tilts the opposite direction, like the world couldn't decide which way to fold at the far end. A large circle of stone stands upright like a wheel engraved with stars, clouds, and tiny boats. You walk around it slowly. On the back, more carving, a calendar. Not like ours. No months, no numbers, just symbols. And a line that curves through all of them like a snake weaving its way through time. You follow the snake with your finger. It leads to a symbol near the bottom, a spiral surrounding a crack, a literal break in the stone. You press on it, nothing happens. But then, under your feet a rumble. You step back. The floor splits, only slightly. A seam opens, and cold air gusts up from below. Not damp, not moldy, dry, crisp, as if sealed long ago and forgotten. You crouch, peer inside. A tunnel. Because of course there's a tunnel. Before you descend, something catches your eye on the rim of the wheel calendar. An inscription, barely there. We were warned, but the sky was clear, and we laughed. The roots cracked. Beneath us anyway. You step into the tunnel. The descent is quiet. The air grows dry as parchment, and your breath echoes more than it should. It feels like walking into a memory not meant for you. Then the tunnel ends, and suddenly you're standing in a room unlike anything so far. No vines, no stone, just glass. A dome of smooth, curved panels, most cracked or dust-covered, but a few still clear. Through them, you see what looks like twisted trees and sky, but not the sky above. A different one. Pale violet, streaked with gold. A reflection. No, a memory projected. This dome. It records images flicker across the inner walls, cities blooming and collapsing, mazes forming and dissolving, people building temples and then abandoning them, over and over. It's all happened before. One loop, then another. You step to the center. A pedestal waits. On it, a sphere. Black glass. You reach for it, and the room responds. Images rush through your mind. A child placing a candle inside a stone niche. A woman whispering to a tree. A city sinking beneath roots that move like water. A bell ringing with no one to hear it. And one phrase, whispered in a dozen voices: we will not be forgotten, even if we forget ourselves. You stagger back. The sphere dims. You take one final look at the images dancing across the walls. In one corner you spot a detail others might have missed. A staircase leading up, and in the scene, one figure remains. Behind, seated, watching the others leave. Alone. The watcher. Always. You leave the dome, back through the tunnel, back through the tilted halls, back to the city that somehow survived sinking twice because it never stopped breathing. Not really. And, well, you've been inhaling its memory this whole time. You climb. Not fast, not eager, like someone retracing steps. They never took up a narrow root-veined staircase that feels older than memory and twice as moody. The walls are close now, the stone damp. Something drips in the distance, keeping time like a lazy metronome. Eventually, the stairs spit you out into sunlight, or what's left of it. The sky above is tinted rose, clouds bruised with the last breath of evening. You're higher now, well above the jungle floor. The canopy stretches beneath you like a great green ocean, rippling in the wind. And before you, a garden. Or what's left of one. Stone planters in long, curling rows, each overtaken by vines, roots, and trees that had zero respect for symmetry. Flowers bloom where they shouldn't, growing sideways out of cracks. Thorned bushes burst from the skeletons of gazebos. A tree has taken root inside a toppled archway, splitting it neatly in two like some polite botanical exorcism. You step forward. The path is still visible, just barely. Worn stone tiles peek through the weeds, guiding you deeper into the garden. A maze within a maze. But this one's different, not built for challenge, or ceremony, or test. This garden was meant to be walked, wandered, forgotten in, like a place where thoughts unravel themselves while your feet do the thinking. You follow the path and notice something strange. The plants shift, not dramatically. This isn't a haunted hedge waving hello, but subtly. Leaves seem to reorient slightly as you pass. Vines pulse and slacken, making way without touch. It's as if the garden recognizes you, welcomes you, and just ahead, tucked between two fractured walls, is something unexpected. A chair. Stone, yes, but carved with such softness it looks like a cushion hardened into permanence. It sits in the center of a ring of plants, lily ferns, creeping moss like a throne in a court of overgrowth. You sit, because of course you do. And the moment you do, the wind dies. The garden holds its breath, and then, all at once, sound returns, but not jungle sound, not wind or bugs or distant animal calls. Voices, dozens, hundreds, whispers pouring in from everywhere at once. Male, female, young, old, all layered and indistinct, like trying to remember 20 conversations at once. You close your eyes, the whispers grow clearer. You hear. She planted silence. It grew into memory. I watched him fall. The roots caught him. We left the door open. The maze closed it. And then, you are here. You open your eyes. One flower has bloomed beside the chair, a single red bloom, too red, like freshly spilled ink. You reach toward it, hesitate, then touch. The moment your fingers graze the petal, a sharp snap echoes in the distance. You flinch, but nothing moves. Instead, a rustle behind you. You turn, and there, standing at the edge of the garden, is a figure not stone, not quite human, wrapped in bark and thread, wearing a mask shaped like a blossom, tall and silent. Head tilts, slightly studying you then. It raises one hand. Points. To the right. You blink and it's gone. You stand slowly, breath shallow. Where it pointed, a narrow path curls through the dense overgrowth, lined with carved stones shaped like open books. Each book is filled with images, people tending plants, sitting in quiet, brushing dust from petals. Gardeners, not rulers, not priests. Caretakers. This was their domain. And these were their stories. You follow the path. With each step, the jungle quiets further until only your breath remains, and then you reach it. A pool perfectly round, shallow, stone edges worn smooth, but the water, glass, clear. And beneath it, carvings, a mosaic, moon phases, a sleeping figure, spirals within spirals, and at the center of the pool a stone heart literally carved with veins, chambers, and a single line down the middle just wide enough to suggest it might one day break open. You kneel. The whispers return, but this time one stands out clear. The heart remembers what the mouth cannot. You stare at your reflection in the water. It's not quite you, it's older, wiser, like someone who has carried the memory of a garden in silence for years. You dip your hand into the pool. The water is cold, sharp, and something beneath your palm pulses once like a heartbeat, then stills behind you. The wind stirs the leaves again. The maze exhales, and the garden in its own strange way smiles. You leave the garden behind, but it doesn't leave you. There's a weight now, not heavy like fear or danger, more like a warmth you didn't realize was missing until it settled in. The kind of weight you carry when you know a place is still dreaming about you long after you've walked away. The path becomes rocky again, narrow, winding. Down between jagged cliffs smothered in moss and ferns, the sky disappears behind a veil of trees. You step over ancient roots thick as your thigh, duck beneath low stone arches half collapsed under their own age, and then almost by accident, you step into a corridor. But not just any corridor. The one hums, not like the bridge did, not like the maze. This is mechanical. The sound is subtle, rhythmic, almost shy, a pulse deep in the walls like cogs turning behind centuries of silence. You press your hand to the stone. It vibrates. Once. Twice. You walk forward. The corridor curves. And then you see them. Gears. Actual gears, metal and stone, fused together like they were always meant to be part of the same song. They spin slowly for momentum to be keeping them going. They're being powered. Now somehow. You duck beneath a suspended arch where thick vines snake through copper tubing. The ceiling is carved with lines, mathematical, geometric, patterned like some lost language of movement. This isn't just a corridor, it's a machine. Temple that moves. You enter a larger chamber, dome-shaped, like the memory dome before, but colder, sharper. Every wall is covered in interlocking discs, some rotating in slow tandem, others frozen mid-turn like they lost interest halfway through a revolution. And at the center, a table. Not for dining, for control. Its surface is smooth stone, inlaid with circular grooves. You step closer and notice thin slits running outward, tiny channels where water once flowed, maybe, or light. You touch it, nothing happens. Then again, this time, something clicks and the discs on the wall shift just slightly, just enough to hum. Then another turns, and another. You're playing the room. It responds to touch, to motion. You swipe across the table again, counterclockwise. The gears pause, a few reverse direction. Suddenly, one of the walls splits open, all the way, just enough to reveal what's behind. A chamber filled with glowing stones, suspended on threads of metal. You blink, and the moment you do, the stones shift, forming shapes. Constellations. But not the ones you know. These are different, bent, looping, familiar in the way dreams sometimes mimic reality without permission. You reach toward one. It spins slowly, casting a beam of light across the floor straight onto a mural. The mural lights up. And reveals a story. A woman stands before the stars. She draws lines between them. The lines become gears. The gears turn the city. The city opens its eyes. You step back. More of the mural glows. A second panel. The city breaks. The stars fall. The gears slow. She does not speak again. There's a third panel, but the light doesn't reach it. You look at the control table. There's one groove you haven't touched, a spiral. Naturally, you slide your finger into it and trace the curve. Softly. A low chime echoes through the room. The third panel glows. One will come who does not ask, who does not demand, who listens. The gears will listen to. You step back. A soft breeze curls into the room. From where you turn toward the far wall, a crack has appeared, slim, vertical, pulsing with pale light. You walk toward it, brush your fingers against the edge that opens beyond it. Darkness, but alive, not menacing, just expectant. You step inside. The room is small, octagonal. Each wall holds a small garage, a different size. Material, texture, bronze, stone, glass, obsidian. One is turning, just one. You place your hand on it, and the others begin to move slowly, with purpose. And suddenly, the entire chamber tilts, not violently, more like a gimbal, realigning itself to some long-forgotten axis. You brace yourself. The floor settles and one more panel slides. Open. Inside, a thin slab. Engraved with perfect precision. You read the words, "We built this place, not to last, but to be remembered. If it still turns, then someone still listens. That is enough." You exhale. Step back, let the gears spin, and as you walk out of the temple, the hum behind you grows softer, not because it's fading, but because you've matched its rhythm. You don't need to hear it anymore. You're carrying it now. You descend a slope wrapped in mist. The jungle feels distant now, like a memory sliding out of focus. Gone are the thick vines, the chirping insects, the endless green. Here, the trees thin out, the air clears, the silence stretches. And then, the smell. Sweet. Faintly burnt. You follow it. Past fallen stones and crooked steps, through a corridor lined with carved fruit bowls, musical instruments, and what looks suspiciously like party hats made of bark. Your foot hits something hard. Plate. Stone. Cracked. You've walked into a dining area but not a banquet hall. Not royal. This one's outside. A ring of squat stone stools in circles and circles, a long slab table, low to the ground, covered in moss. Empty. No. Not quite. On top of the table, arranged with unsettling care, are remnants of a feast. Faded bowls, fossilized fruit, a carved turkey made entirely of dark wood, even tiny stone goblets filled with what looks like hardened wax or petrified honey. Some of the objects are clearly old, ancient, ceremonial, but others are recent. A cloth napkin, still soft, a dried flower that hasn't crumbled, a bite mark on a fig, an actual fig. Your stomach twists. Someone has been maintaining this. Recently. You back up slowly and scan the clearing. The wind brushes your neck like a whisper made of breath. Nothing moves, but the sensation persists, like you've crashed someone's dinner party, and they're still deciding if you're the main course. You crouch near the table. One end holds a small statue crudely shaped, like a child sculpted it in secret. It shows a figure with multiple arms, each holding a tool, a ladle, a broom, a comb, a flute, a caretaker, maybe a servant or a host. You remember something. A single line from one of the slabs beneath the pond. The table is never empty. For her, the garden queen. You've heard whispers by now, passing mentions on walls and domes. Stories etched in the backs of spiral paths. A silent matriarch, not ruler by crown but by presence. Some believe she was the soul of the city, rooted deep beneath its foundations, feeding the growth above. Others claim she never ruled at all, just watched, hosted, made sure everything had its place. Whatever the truth, this was her seat. At the far end of the table, a single chair stands taller than the rest, polished smooth by centuries of absence. No moss dares touch it. You approach it, sit, and immediately the air shifts. Wind curls through the trees, slow and fragrant. Not just sweet complex. You smell cardamom, stone fruit, cinnamon, ash, like someone just barely finished cooking. Then you hear it. Clink. A soft tap, stone on stone. You freeze. The sound comes from the far side of the clearing. A shape emerges, slow, small, a monkey. Dark FURRED. Quiet-eyed, it pads toward the table and climbs onto one of the stools. Sits, looks at you. It picks up a pebble and sets it gently on its plate. Then it waits. Another monkey appears, then another. They come in silence, each taking a seat. None look at each other, none chatter. Each places a stone or a leaf or a broken seed put onto their plate and sits still. Within minutes, the table is full, not with food but with memory. An audience of silent guests offering tribute to nothing and everything. You don't dare move then. At the head of the table next to you, a breeze lifts the moss from a second small statue, one that wasn't visible before. It's her, the garden queen. This carving is older, detailed. She sits in the same position you do, hands resting on the table, eyes closed, but her mouth, it's open. Slightly, as if mid-sentence. You lean closer and you hear it. A hum. A low. A vibration beneath your fingertips. The entire table is humming, not musical, not mechanical. Alive. The ground beneath you pulses once like a heartbeat, then again, stronger. The monkeys stay still. You glance down. The surface of the table is shifting. The stones and objects begin to glow faintly, soft yellows, greens and blues, not bright like fireflies or memory. And then images reflected on the table's surface. Of people, laughing, crying, eating. Centuries of feasts, of gatherings, of quiet, intimate rituals that never made it into history books because no one ever thought they'd matter, but they mattered here. And the garden queen was always present, not as ruler, as witness. And suddenly, you get it. That city didn't worship its leaders. It worshipped its moments, its daily grace, its stillness. You exhale, stand slowly. The monkeys don't flinch, they just watch. And one of them, just one, offers you its pebble. You take it. It's smooth, worn, shaped like a crescent moon. You pocket it, bow slightly to the table, and leave behind you. The feast continues, for no one and for everyone. The jungle returns. Not all at once. First, in scent-wet bark, peppery leaves, the unmistakable hint of something decomposing politely nearby. Then in sound, distant bird calls layered over frogs who apparently have strong opinions and no volume control. You press forward through a narrow path, winding between jagged walls of stone. The trail narrows, closes in, and then the air shifts. Cooler still, you've entered a tunnel, a long one. Its mouth yawns wide like an open throat. Its walls are curved, not natural crafted. The ceiling low enough to brush your hair. The floor marked with ridges. Carved teeth. That's not metaphor. You crouch and run your fingers along the grooves. Triangular. Jagged. Each side of the tunnel is lined with overlapping slabs, angled inward like molars. Between them, slits, narrow, designed for wind or something like it. You stand slowly. The wind begins, not a breeze, a whisper, low and constant, threading through the slits in a way that forms speech, not words exactly, just suggestion. The kind of sound that makes your brain want to fill in the blanks, that makes the hairs on your neck audition for escape. You take a step forward. The whisper changes. Sharper now. Still not hostile but aware. Like a librarian hearing you crack your knuckles during story hour, you keep walking. 1 step. 2. The tunnel curves. Each corner brings a new shift in sound, echoes piling on echoes, always just out of sync with your footsteps. The whispers form. Patterns rising, falling, circling around you in spiral tones. Then, silence. Complete. You freeze. Something up ahead. The tunnel opens into a small circular room. Its walls ripple with carvings, faces, hands, mouths, all mid-scream or mid-laughter. Hard to tell. Each one's mouth forms a different shape, as if frozen mid-chant. At the center, a pillar. On top, nothing. Just a circular indentation. Like a bowl, but deeper, blackened, smoothed by time or use. You step closer and feel it. Air pulling downward. A soft draw, like breath. You crouch, place your palm near the center. The breath pulls at your skin, gentle, continuous, and then a whisper. But this one is different. It doesn't swirl or echo. It's focused, singular, clear. Don't answer. You jerk your hand away. Too late. The mouth nearest you opens. No, really, it moves. Stone lips part slowly, with the sound of 1,000 years cracking in protest. You step back. Another mouth moves, then another. Each in turn. Opening, waiting. You remember now. This was in a footnote deep in one of those fringe books that scholars politely pretend doesn't exist. A temple of whispers. A place where voices were collected, not from the living, but from the dying. Each whisper caught in the moment between last breath and silence. Stored here. Why? To remember, to warn, to confess. The record of a civilization not in books or stone, but in final thoughts. You step back toward the pillar, and the mouths begin to speak. Not one at a time, all at once. Voices overlapping, rising and falling. A river of broken words. I buried the key beneath the rose tree. Tell her I tried. He was already dead when I arrived. The maze remembers more than it forgets. Don't trust the lilies. You stagger back. The words aren't meant for you, and yet you understand some of them. The whispers surge, then fade, and just when you think it's over, one voice remains. Youngclear.com. Someone will come. They won't shout. They won't beg. They will listen. They will walk the path and leave. No mark, and they will remember us. You take a shaky breath. The pillar is glowing faintly now. The indentation holding something you didn't place there. A coin flat, smooth. Carved with the spiral. Of course you pick it up. The whispers stop. Completely, like someone flipped the off switch on the past. You pocket the coin and walk toward the far side of the room, where a stone slab blocks another exit. As you approach, it rumbles quietly, then shifts aside, revealing the jungle once more. You step out, back into the green. The noise, the heat, and yet something's different. You tilt your head. The wind hums just slightly as it passes through. The trees behind you, not random. Still whispering, but now it speaks your name. The jungle air greets you with open arms and very little personal space. It's thicker now, as if the forest took one long inhale during your time in the tunnel and hasn't exhaled yet. You wipe your forehead with the sleeve of your shirt, but it's a losing battle. Somewhere behind you, a bird shrieks like it just read the ending to your journey and didn't like it. The path ahead isn't really a path anymore. It's suggestion. Twigs broken at the same angle. Leaves curled just so. The faint imprint of footprints that aren't quite human. 3 toes, widely spaced. Too big for any monkey, Too small for anything that should be walking upright. Naturally, you follow them. You push through low branches and step over Muscovite stones until the trees open like curtains pulled back just enough to say, well, since you're already here, you enter a new space. Circular again. Why is it always circular? The city loves its shapes, but this one is different. There's no altar, no statue, no stairs. Just birds, hundreds of them. Tiny, sleek, black-feathered birds with bright amber eyes perched silently on every branch, vine, and crumbled bit of wall. None chirp, none flinch. They're watching. One of them flutters down and lands gently on a flat rock before you. Its head tilts, eyes scanning you in a way that feels more like a customs officer than a bird. Then you see it. A small stone is tied to its leg, no bigger than a coin. It dangles from a thin golden thread, carved with the same spirals you've come to know so well. The bird hops forward once you reach out, slow, and gently remove the stone. The bird doesn't resist. Then, like a signal, the rest of them begin to move, circling above in quiet spirals. A dance without music. You look at the stone in your hand. It has a name etched into it, not yours, but one you recognize from one of the whispering mouths in the tunnel. You blink, another bird lands, another stone, another name. This continues. One by one, birds deliver carved stones to the center of the clearing. Each carries a name. Each stone unique in texture, color, shape, none repeated. It becomes clear. This is a memory system, a message network, a library written in wings in motion somewhere. Long ago, someone decided the dead should travel, that memories shouldn't gather dust, they should migrate, that names matter less when buried, and more when carried, so the birds carry them. Historians still argue whether these birds were trained or if the species evolved within this city's strange cradle. Some argue their paths follow magnetic lines laid deep beneath the jungle. Others think they're drawn to names like moths to flame. Whatever the truth, this is a system that works because the names keep coming. You crouch, pick up one of the stones at random. This one's warm, it hums, your fingers twitch involuntarily, and suddenly, an image, a woman standing ankle deep in water, holding a fruit high above her head while the jungle burns behind her. You drop the stone. Another, a child asleep beneath a canopy of vines, a snake curled protectively nearby, another, a man staring at a broken bridge, whispering a lullaby through his tears. The stones carry not just names, but moments. Each one is a life, and the birds, they are the messengers of memory. You step back, breath shallow, the birds stop circling. They begin to land, again, each one perching on a specific stone. No repeats, no confusion. It's like they know whose story is whose. You hear a rustle behind you, a different kind of bird, larger feathers shimmering slightly with iridescence. It walks, not flies. Regal, ancient. Tied to its leg is not a stone but a scroll. You kneel, gently untie the thread. The scroll is small, brittle, but intact. You unroll it slowly. One phrase, in dark ink that hasn't faded. We send our stories to be remembered. If you hold them, speak them. If you cannot, carry them. If you but forget them, we disappear. You look up, the birds are watching you again, all of them, and you understand what you have to do. You gather the stones, place them gently in a shallow satchel at your side. They're not heavy, not really, just persistent. And when you stand, the lead bird, the one with the scroll, turns and walks toward a narrow path lined with vines. It stops once, looks back, you follow. The rest of the flock takes flight, swirling overhead in wide arcs, forming a spiral against the setting sky of course, because everything comes back to that. The path you follow isn't much of a path at all, more like a suggestion made by a particularly organized bird and then completely ignored by the jungle. The vines thicken around your legs, grabbing just enough to remind you that nature doesn't care how poetic your journey is. It still wants your socks. The lead bird, the one with shimmering feathers and scroll duty vibes, moves ahead calmly, no flapping, just slow, deliberate steps. Like a butler guiding you to a room you're not technically allowed in. The trees part, and before you rise is a circular courtyard sunken into the earth. Yes, another circle, but this one's different. This one is perfect, unbroken, untouched, every stone is in place, every carving crisp, no moss, no overgrowth. As if the jungle said, not here. This part is sacred. You step down slowly, each stair smooth and warm. The air changes, cooler, drier, as if the space is preserved in time. At the center, a platform, not raised, not lowered, level with everything, and on it, a throne. But not one of gold or jewels. This one is carved from pale stone, covered in tiny spirals and stars. On the seat rests a single object, a flower, stone, perfectly carved. You approach the bird, lands on the edge of the platform, watches you. You pick up the flower and the air shifts. A deep, soft hum begins beneath your feet. You feel it more than hear it, like a voice buried under centuries of silence. Finally deciding to clear its throat, then the walls come alive. Every inch of the sunken courtyard begins to glow dimly at first. Then stronger. Stories light up in lines of symbols and shapes, not words, not quite, but you understand them somehow. One shows the founding of the city rooted in the heart of the jungle by people who followed a star only they could see. Another shows the building of the mazes not as puzzles but as meditations, walked daily to still the mind and awaken the soil. You keep turning. More carvings light up. The moon goddess dancing on the edge of the bridge. The garden queen planting the first whispervines, the watcher carving names into the air. Each image is movement frozen mid-breath. Each line carries memory, ritual, grief, joy, and you realize something. This place wasn't meant to impress, it was meant to remember. And the throne, it wasn't a seat of power, it was a listening post. Whoever sat here didn't rule, they recorded, held, stories passed them on. You place the flower back in its spot, the glowing fades. Not abruptly, just respectfully. Like a curtain drawing at the end of a performance no one saw. You sit on the edge of the platform, the bird hops closer, it bows its head, you bow back, a quiet agreement passes between you. Then, without ceremony, the bird takes flight, but not away, up, higher, it circles the clearing once, twice, then drops something. You catch it, a stone, pendant, shaped like an ear. You laugh softly, of course. Another whisper, another story to hold. You put it on the courtyard, hums once more. Then, goes still, and that's when you hear it. Not a voice, not wind, not memory, but footsteps, soft, coming from the corridor behind the throne. You rise slowly, step through, and there, waiting in the stone hallway, is a figure. Not stone, not bird, not even ghost, just a person, simple robes, barefoot, holding a staff carved with spirals and names. They smile at you, not warmly, not coldly, just knowingly, that don't speak. They just turn, and begin to walk. You follow, not because you're told, but because you understand this is what you've been preparing for. Not the throne, not the maze, not even the memory, but the passing on. Because stories don't live in stone, they live in steps, and you're still walking. The figure leads you deeper into the stone corridor. Each footstep they take echoes with absolute confidence, not arrogance, not urgency. Just someone who's walked this path too many times to count and still finds it worthy. You try to match their pace, but there's a rhythm to it, a beat that feels more like memory than motion. The tunnel curves once, then again, then stops. You emerge into a vast chamber, vast but low. The ceiling is barely a few feet above your head, supported by thick stone beams engraved with coiling vines and tiny animals caught mid. The floor slopes gently downward into a basin carved directly into the rock. The walls shimmer slightly, not with light, but with condensation, like the room breathes in mist. And in the center, a pedestal. Flat, round, etched with spirals of course. Around it, dozens of small stone platform seats, maybe, or altars. You step forward. The figure stops beside the pedestal and places their staff across it. Then they finally speak. Just one sentence. Every story ends here, until someone walks in. Their voice is quiet, not tired, reverent. You watch as they take a seat at one of the stone platforms facing the pedestal, waiting, listening. You approach it slowly. There's a shallow bowl carved into its top. Inside, sand, fine, white, glittering faintly like crushed stars, and buried in that sand pebbles, each one shaped differently, each one carved with a symbol. You pick one up, a tree, you pick up another, a footprint. Another. A question mark. Each pebble is a story, not just one life, one moment. One idea carried far enough to take shape. And here you are, hands full of names from the bird. Courtyard. Stones heavy with whispers, memories, stuck to your skin like pollen. This pedestal isn't for reading, it's for giving back. Pour the pebble from your pocket into the sand. It lands with a soft tink and immediately begins to glow faintly. Another joins it, and another, until all of them are there, nestled together in the sand. The pedestal pulses, and something extraordinary happens. Above you, projected not onto stone, but into mist, stories begin to play. Scenes formed in water, vapor, and light. A woman planting seeds that bloom instantly. A child weaving wind through vines to calm a storm. A city crumbling and rebuilding again, and again, and again. The watcher, eyes open at last. The garden queen, hands buried in soil that sings. You don't understand all of it, but you don't need to. It's not about knowing, it's about keeping, holding, remembering. You sit. The figure across from you smiles. Slightly, you smile back, and for a while, minutes, hours longer than either, you just sit, in silence, watching the stories, letting them speak, letting them breathe. And then the figure stands, places one more stone in the sand. This one is blank. They bow their head and leave. You remain, because now it's your turn to remember. Final 300 words closing. And now, as the chamber dims around you and the mist folds quietly back into the air, you feel your breath slow. Your hands rest in your lap. The stone is warm beneath you, and above, the faintest glow lingers in the ceiling, like fireflies who've forgotten how to leave. The city exhales, not loudly, not with drama. Just gently. You sense it, the vines loosening their grip around old walls, the birds tucking their wings beneath moonlit leaves, the gears finally at rest. The maze no longer turns. The whispers have gone still, because, for now, they've been heard. The temple doesn't need you to remember everything, just enough to carry a name, or a story, or a moment back into the world where silence often swallows too much. You rise slowly, step lightly back into the corridor, not because you're finished, but because you've been invited to leave. The city will stay here, humming beneath moss and fog and time, just as it always has, and long after your footprints fade from its spiral paths, it will still breathe, still whisper, still wait, for someone new, someone quiet, someone who listens. The jungle won't say goodbye, it never does, but it will close behind you, soft and green and humming low, as if tucking a secret back under its leafy quilt. The city is asleep now, and maybe you are too.